Welcome to mylegaladvocate.com. Let's say good morning to Tim Marecki, the host and the founding partner of Marecki and Medolla. How are you this morning, Tim?
I'm doing great, Blanca. How are you today?
I am fantastic, and I'm so excited about all of the information and education that you're bringing to our community every Friday morning at 10:30 a.m. And I just want to remind everyone that Marecki and Medolla is the gold sponsor of the Laws of Life webcast network and the networking group, and just such big supporters of everything we do and supporting so many different nonprofits, so many exciting things happening. So today we're going to be talking about trucking accidents. So for starters, how do you define a trucking accident?
Well, Blanca, we define a trucking accident as a collision with a vehicle that's over 10,000 pounds, a tractor trailer. Most of them are much heavier than that, but anytime a tractor trailer collides with a car or a pedestrian, yeah, that's a trucking accident under our law.
And how many truck drivers are there in the U.S.?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get.
How many truck drivers are there in the United States?
There are over 3.5 million truck drivers in the United States right now, and it's one of the fastest growing occupations. With all the changes that have happened in the world over the past year, people are staying home and having goods delivered to them. There are more trucks and tractor trailers on the road right now than ever before.
Wow. And how many accidents are happening a year?
There's about 500,000 trucking accidents per year in the United States, and almost every single one of them results in an injury.
Wow, that's pretty shocking. What are the leading causes of these trucking accidents?
Okay, so with a car accident or a truck accident, any accident involving a motor vehicle, I mean, the leading causes are not paying attention. I mean, I'm sure most of our audiences drives cars, and you know when you're out there, I mean, there's just a lot of things that you have to be aware of. With trucks, you've got a lot of extra considerations there. They're very heavy. It takes them a long time to slow down and stop to avoid an accident. It's very difficult for them to maneuver and turn out of the way to avoid an accident. And you also have the situation with the drivers of the trucks. And what's going on is these truck drivers are under a lot of pressure by the companies to meet schedules and make deliveries on time. And the result is often they're operating the trucks on not enough sleep. You know, sometimes they're taking drugs to keep themselves awake. It's there's a lot of additional considerations that go into avoiding an accident when you're operating a truck.
Wow. Now, what types of consequences do the truckers face when they violate these rules?
Right. So truck drivers and trucking carriers, meaning the owners of the trucking companies, are subject to very strict federal regulations as far as the safety features that are on the vehicle itself. And as far as the operator of the truck, the driver, they're not allowed to drive more than a certain number of hours in a day. They're not allowed to drive more than a certain number of hours in a week. They're required to keep logs of all the driving that they're doing. All these things are set up to keep the public safe from people that are overtired or lack the ability to pay attention driving a truck. I'm not going to get into all the details of that here. I could talk about it literally for a week, but there are volumes of federal and state regulations that tell these truck drivers and trucking carriers how they can operate their business. If we find them in violation of those regulations, it turns out very well for the case. And you'd be surprised how many companies and drivers violate the regulations. They're violated more often than they're not.
And obviously, as an experienced law firm, you've handled many types of trucking accidents. And so one of your areas of expertise is to gather all these logs and find the specific violations that led to the accident, right?
Yeah, that's correct, Blanca, and we do. And when we find those violations, it usually turns out very well financially for our clients.
One of the recurring issues that always comes up in our conversation is when people think, well, if I'm partially at fault, I can't recover. I caused this accident by 30%, or they don't know the percent. What is your advice to those people?
Okay, so Florida is the legal term is comparative negligence. We're a comparative negligence state, and ultimately at the end of the day, the party that's going to decide, if we can't settle the case, work out our differences with the other side and agree on fair compensation, we try the case in front of a jury, and ultimately it's a 6-person jury that's going to decide who caused that accident after hearing all of the evidence that the court allows them to hear. And at the end of the trial, the jury can say the truck driver was 100% at fault, and here are the damages, and the client is awarded those damages. The jury can say the client was 100% at fault, and the truck driver was not at fault at all. In that case, the client doesn't get anything. The jury can say the client was 50% at fault, and the truck driver was 50% at fault. In that case, the client gets 50% of their damages. Even if the client is 90% at fault and the truck driver was only 10% at fault, the client can still recover 10% of their damages for the portion that the truck driver was at fault. So if you're unfortunate enough to get into a trucking accident, you're probably going to have some pretty significant injuries. Say the jury awards damages of $1 million and says that you were 90% at fault and a truck driver was 10% at fault. You're going to get 10% of that $1 million, $100,000.
And that's still going to help somebody with their medical expenses, their loss of wages, the distress costs. So if you take one thing out of this show, out of this education, just remember, you don't presume that you're wrong. Talk to Tim and find out about the case. Talk it through. I think so many people deprive themselves of the opportunity of recovering damages when they can. Now, if they want to meet with you, that's a complimentary opportunity, right? It doesn't cost them any money to meet with you.
Yeah, I was actually going to flip the script, Blanca, and ask you a question. So
Please.
How much does a client have to pay to talk to me for 5 hours about their trucking accident case?
Absolutely nothing. Nothing. And the other thing is that you're very easy to talk to. Your law firm is very inviting. If you don't want to go to the law firm of Tim in person, you can also call his receptionist and arrange a Zoom virtual meeting, and she will set up a Zoom link and meet with you virtually. So really, it's really worth it for everybody to meet with you, Tim, or your partner, Juan Medolla, and talk it through and figure it out. And don't just come to conclusions on your own without really knowing. I really wish I would have had this advice earlier as well. And what about statements at the scene? Is it wise to make statements at the scene? Who do we talk to when we're there? Who do we not talk to?
Okay, here's the deal with the scene of an automobile accident. Law enforcement has to be called to the scene. It's in your best interest to get law enforcement there. It doesn't matter who calls them, whether it was the other driver, whether it was some random witness, or whether it's you. But do not leave that scene of the accident until law enforcement has arrived and documented what's happened. As far as making statements, when those law enforcement officials show up, they're going to ask you questions about what happened. You're supposed to answer those questions, and there's no problem with you answering those questions. What we want to avoid at the scene of an accident is making statements to the other driver, other people that are around. You only want to speak to the law enforcement officials at the scene of the accident. Then come see your attorney, and we'll figure out the course of action.
I think that's excellent advice. Thanks for clarifying. People have that question. And I know the consultations are free. You're also doing free reviews of the car policies. Tell us about that.
Yeah, what I found out in my practice, Blanca, and I had no idea until I started doing this for a living, the vast majority of Floridians are grossly uninsured when it comes to their automobile policy. And there are many people that are seriously injured in accidents and are unable to get any financial assistance, and it's only because they have inadequate insurance coverage. So what we started doing here a couple of years ago is we're giving a complimentary review to any Floridian that wants to send in their auto insurance policy. We'll have it reviewed by a professional auto accident attorney, and within 24 hours, you'll get feedback of what your coverage is, what it could be, what it should be, what everything means, and what you should really be doing to protect yourself.
That is so incredibly critical. So everyone out there, again, another opportunity, have your car policy reviewed. You can email it to the law firm or call the law firm. You can visit mylegaladvocate.com to get other contact details. Send your car policy in. Many people in the Laws of Life networking group have taken advantage of this opportunity, and I highly suggest that you do it as well, because again, better to know now, God forbid, before the car accident happens, if you have sufficient coverage or not. So this is absolutely incredibly important information. Tim, thank you for educating us today about trucking accidents and for doing all that you do for our community. We appreciate you so much. And what would you say is your number one law of life this week?
Be nice to people and give freely of yourself.
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, we wish everyone a fantastic weekend. Thanks for watching. Join us every Friday at 10:30 for My Legal Advocate, or just set up a one-on-one with Tim anytime by visiting mylegaladvocate.com. Have a good weekend, everyone, and stay safe. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.